Hello and welcome to Unit 5, Graphical Representation. So today's topic, we're going to talk about graphing ordered pairs. What's your goal for today? What I want you to be able to do by the end of today, or the end of when you complete the assigned work, is that you can successfully graph a coordinate on a Cartesian plane. So then the question then is, what the heck is a Cartesian plane? Well, some of you already know what this is, but for the rest of us that don't memorize these fancy math terms, Cartesian plane is just an x, y axis. All right, it's just the x, y axis. So taking out my line maker, the x, y axis looks like this. And what we do is we put arrowheads to show that each of these lines goes on forever in each direction. And if you recall, the center here is what we call the origin. The origin, and this is always your starting point. All right, so when you are going to put a point on a Cartesian plane, that's where you always start from. Now our positive values always go to the right, and they always go up. So on a note like this, I always remind myself, if I'm going to the right, I'm going in the positive direction. If I'm going up, I'm going in the positive direction. And finally, the horizontal line here, this one right here, this is what we call the x-axis. The x-axis, which means that the one that's going straight up and down or vertically is what we call our y-axis. Now it's very important that you remember which is which, because when we go to plot our points, you need to know which is the x and which is the y. Okay? Now a coordinate is in this form, bracket x, y. Okay? So this is what we call a coordinate. The brackets are very important because those round brackets indicate that we're dealing with a point, and then the x value tells us how to move left or right, and the y, the second number, tells us how to move up or down. All right, so it's like a road map. Very, very similar to a road map or instructions on how to get from point A to point B. That coordinate acts as a road map that tells you how to get from where you're starting from to where you're finishing off. So that is what Cartesian plane means, x, y axes. All right, so some examples of what you're going to be expected to do. So in the homework, it's going to state the coordinates of each point. So what I want to do is I want to find the location of, my first one's over here, so I'm going to circle it. I want to find point A. Now for the first couple, I would recommend make sure that you put this direction's positive. So if I'm moving right, it's positive, and if I'm moving up, it's positive. All right, just as a reminder. So to figure out how to get to point A, we start at the origin. So we're going to start right here. Okay. Then we're going to tell a person how to move left or right. So in order to get from my origin to my point, I'm going to have to move to the left. So I'm basically counting squares. So did my arrow the wrong way here. So the way you show it is point A is at the coordinate. So at the origin, I move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. But because it is not in the positive direction, it must be a negative number. So I'm going to say -6. Then once I reach that location, I have to go up to get to A. And it looks like it's a value of 5. Or if we count the squares, it ends up being +5. And there we go. That is a road map or a coordinate to tell you how to get from origin to point A. And that's all you're really doing. So coordinate B. So again, I write it as B, and I use my round brackets to indicate that this is a coordinate. And I simply count my squares, again, starting at the origin. So I had to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares to the right, which is a positive direction. So I had to move +5. You don't need the positive sign. And then I would have to go down 1, 2, 3. Up is positive. So that means I had to go down, which means I went down 3, or it would be negative 3 squares. And again, that's a road map telling you how to get to each coordinate. Point C, located right there. So point C is located, again, counting squares, starting at your origin. You got to move to the right. And if you count it out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 squares. So I had to move positive 9. And then I only had to go up 1 there. So if I move up 1, that means I'm going up. So it's a positive number. So it would be 9, 1 would be my coordinate. And the last one is point D, way over here. So point D, count your squares, again, starting at your origin. That's where we always start from. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we move to the left, which means that's a negative number. So negative 9. Then counting again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now I went down, so it is also a negative number. All right, so there we go. That's how that roadmap system works. So the other types of questions you're going to be asked is to go ahead and graph these points on the Cartesian plane. So let's start with the first one. I'll do it in blue. So point A is located at negative 5 and 8. So I always start at my origin and negative 5. So again, like I said before, off the start here, I'm going to put which directions are positive. So negative 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm using my marker here to show the counting. You can just use your fingers. You don't actually have to draw this line here. But if it helps off the start, please go ahead and do it. So negative 5. And then it says I have to go up 8. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there, put a big dot there. I put the A with it. That is where point A is. Okay? So this stuff is optional. You don't have to use your pencil. You don't actually have to draw those lines in. You just do your counting. But I'm just doing it to show on the video how I got there. For point B, which is at 3, 7, I would move. Again, I'm back at my origin. 1, 2, 3. So I move 3 to the right. The 7 is positive, so that means I got to go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there is my point B. All right. Point C, 8, negative 4. So again, start at the origin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the Y value is negative 4, so that means I have to go down for a negative. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there is the location of point C. And finally, point D, negative 2. So I'm back to the origin. It's where you always start. Move 2 to the negative, so 1, 2. So I have to move left. Highlight that a little bit more. And then the Y value is also negative, so I got to go down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's my location for coordinate D. Okay? Now, all those lines that I drew in are not necessary. So in the end, your final product is going to look like this. All right? You don't need to put those lines in. However, if they help you get from the origin to that point, don't be afraid to put them in. It's never wrong. And as you get through it, you're going to get quicker at doing it, so it's not maybe as necessary. Okay? I'm going to leave them in for the notes. When it prints out, it's there for you. All right, so that completes how to do coordinates. So you have homework with lesson number 1. You got about, I think, 5 questions to go through. You will need graph paper, and you're going to need a ruler. So make sure you track down that material from your teacher as you go. And good luck, and we'll see you in the next video.